As the war enters its 973rd day, these are the main developments. Here's the situation on Friday, October 25, 2024. Fighting. Russian forces launched drone attacks overnight at the Ukrainian capital, the 15th air attack on Kyiv this month, city officials said. There were no immediate reports of injuries. One person was killed and 9 wounded in a Russian attack in the town of Kupiansk in the northeastern Ukrainian region of Kharkiv, Regional Governor Oleh Syniehubov said. Russian shelling killed 3 people around the strategic hub of Pokrovsk in the eastern Donetsk region, Governor Vadim Filashkin said on the Telegram messaging app. A Russian strike on a branch of the Nova Poshta delivery service killed 2 people in Oleksiievo-Druzhkivka, near the frontline towns of Chasiv Yar and Kostiantynivka, Filashkin said. Russian media and war bloggers reported that Russian forces had advanced into the coal mining town of Selydove, about 20 kilometers or 12 miles southeast of Pokrovsk. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said the most intense Russian assaults along the front line were currently taking place on the Pokrovsk front, including near Selydove. But it did not say whether Russian soldiers had entered the town. Ukraine said Russian forces executed 4 captured Ukrainian servicemen in Donetsk. Ukraine's military intelligence service said the first North Korean units trained in Russia had been deployed in Kursk, a Russian border region where Ukrainian forces staged a surprise incursion in August. Before we move ahead, please like and subscribe to get more detailed view. Politics and diplomacy. South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs voiced grave concern after Russia moved to ratify its defense treaty with North Korea, calling on Moscow to stop its illegal cooperation with Pyongyang. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi said Tokyo was following with serious concern reports that North Korean troops are in Russia ahead of their possible deployment in Ukraine. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres told Russian President Vladimir Putin that his invasion of neighboring Ukraine violated the UN Charter and international law, according to a readout of their meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan. Putin said any proposals for peace with Ukraine must take into account the territory held by Russian forces, stressing that negotiations must be based on the realities on the ground. He also said he welcomed sincere comments made by Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump about bringing an end to Russia's conflict with Ukraine. Yulia Navalnaya, the wife of late Russian dissident Alexei Navalny, slammed Guterres for meeting Putin, calling the Russian president a murderer. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has rejected Ukraine's request to immediately join NATO, made by President Volodymyr Zelensky when he presented his victory plan to Western allies, saying a country at war absolutely cannot become a member of the bloc. Why is North Korea deploying troops to help Russia? Here's what to know. Heads of state rarely send thousands of their soldiers to fight in someone else's war without expecting something in return. So the decision by Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, to deploy 3,000 troops to the battlefield in Ukraine has left American officials with several urgent questions. What is President Vladimir Putin of Russia giving Mr. Kim? Could Russia help North Korea develop more lethal missiles and nuclear capabilities? And could the exchange be evidence of a dangerous new military alliance? National security and intelligence officials in the United States said Wednesday that the answers to those questions remained murky, even as they released evidence showing that the troops had been transported by ship from the North Korean port city of Wonsan to Vladivostok in Russia. John Kirby, the national security spokesman at the White House, said intelligence officials had found no evidence of a specific promise by Russia to help bolster the North Korean military. But he told reporters that there was plenty that Russia could do to help Mr. Kim. That's what's so concerning to us. Analysts and experts who have spent decades tracking the military efforts of Pyongyang say Mr. Kim is most likely seeking help from Russia in 2 broad categories: short-term assistance with his military capabilities and longer-term strategic assurances that could bolster Mr. Kim's ability to confront the United States and his neighbors. There is no stronger signal that one country can send to another than sending troops into the battlefield, said Victor D. Cha, a professor of government and international affairs at Georgetown University and the Korea Chair at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Dr. Cha said sending the troops would give the North Korean leader leverage to ask Russia for a lot in return. At a symbolic level and in terms of Kim's asking price, it's a pretty high price, he said. The deepening relationship between Mr. Putin and Mr. Kim was documented in June, when they met and signed a document pledging cooperation. It said that in case any one of the two sides is put in a state of war by an armed invasion from an individual state or several states, the other side shall provide military and other assistance with all means in its possession without delay. Officials believe that document, known as the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, paved the way for the dispatch of North Korean soldiers to Ukraine and other cooperation. In the short term, analysts say Mr. Kim is probably looking for several concrete things from his Russian counterpart. North Korea needs help perfecting its missile capabilities. Recent reports suggest that North Korean missiles used by Russia against Ukraine have not performed as well as expected. Russia could help Mr. Kim make them better. Mr. Kim might also seek help advancing his nuclear program, including his goal of acquiring a quiet, nuclear-powered submarine capable of launching multiple ballistic missiles that could reach the United States or other allies. North Korea has repeatedly conducted nuclear tests in the past few years as a way of demonstrating its weapons capabilities. Last year, it showed off what it claimed was its smallest ever nuclear warhead, raising concerns that it could deliver one on smaller solid-fuel rockets that could reach its regional adversaries. North Korea has had less success developing the kind of countermeasures that allow missiles to evade sophisticated anti-missile systems deployed by the United States and its allies. North Korea also has not met its goal of launching 3 military satellites, an area where Russia could be very helpful. Russia could also help modernize North Korea's conventional forces. Most of the tanks, planes, and other equipment used by North Koreans are aging, Soviet-era weapons that are in critical need of replacing and updating. If Mr. Putin wanted to, he could repay Mr. Kim's help in Ukraine by providing newer, more modern weapons. And it could continue providing North Korea money, food, and other direct assistance. But Sidney Sealer, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, who spent 40 years in government dealing with North Korea, said the bigger danger to the United States and its allies could be the longer-term goals that Mr. Kim could try to leverage in exchange for helping Russia in Ukraine. Now he's got a path to survival, Mr. Sealer said. He's got friends that have his back, and the pressure and threats from the United States and the international community regarding his nuclear program, you can now blow them all off. He's got a friend in Vladimir Putin. That friendship could have lasting effects on American foreign policy and the way nations interact around the globe. In an article in Foreign Affairs earlier this month, Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken warned that a small number of countries, principally Russia, with the partnership of Iran and North Korea, as well as China, are determined to alter the foundational principles of the international system. In particular, Mr. Blinken noted that Russia's 2-year struggle on the battlefield in Ukraine had forced Mr. Putin to turn to North Korea for help. Weeks before it was known that North Korea had supplied troops to Russia, Mr. Blinken said it was clear that North Korea had already exacted a price for their assistance. Mr. Putin agreed to share Russia's advanced weapons technology with North Korea, exacerbating an already grave threat to Japan and South Korea, Mr. Blinken wrote. He and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un revived a Cold War-era pact pledging to provide military aid if either one went to war. Dr. Cha said that the troop movement suggested that Mr. Kim was in a position to demand even more from Mr. Putin as he pursues his goal of becoming a modern, nuclear state with the ability to directly threaten the United States and the entire region. For the first time in the history of this relationship, he's in the driver's seat, Dr. Cha said of the North Korean leader. Why wouldn't he exact a high price?